Don't be afraid to question professionals. This is a topic that is something I've personally struggled with for a long time and I'm now starting to get better at. What do I mean by you should be okay with questioning professionals? What I've noticed is in our society, there's almost a certain trust me, bro attitude with people who have certain credentials and the such. I see this most prominently in the news media where they bring in some so-called expert and then they say we should listen to him or his opinion on the thing. This is also heavily taught in school where they say you need to get your information from the right sources or the right people. Now, I'm not trying to say that we should disregard these people or that you should listen to whoever, some crazy guy. I'm not saying that at all. What I am saying is that I think we give too much credence to these people and not enough agency to ourselves, I found. Because my issue is, it's almost as if you're not allowed to disagree with those people. Like, if you don't have the right credentials or certain qualification, degree, amount of money, whatever, you almost have no right to an opinion. And then it's also this issue where they act like these people or these pieces of accredited information is unfaulty, right? Like, if it's a valuable source, then it's like, oh, well, then you have to believe it. Case in point, the government. The government officially says this, then so it must be true. When time and time again, through decades, that has been proven to be wrong. Like, an example that really pissed me off is like months ago when the U.S. government, I think it was like early spring or whatever, like they announced that there were no files for Epstein. The Epstein case was completely closed. And of course, that proved to be an absolute and blatant lie. Even at the time, we knew it was a lie. And like a week or like 2 weeks later, they took it back and they said, oh, we don't know where the files are. But my point here is, I remember my father was watching a news broadcast outlining it, and they said, and the guy there said, we finally can stop this conspiracy theory madness behind Epstein. And I don't know, that just got me so angry, where these media experts, they just love to gatekeep and gaslight you out of thinking your own opinion. They say you should come to your conclusion, have your own opinion, then turn around and say, oh, your opinion is not valid. You're not a trusted source. You're not a, quote, expert. And we seem to forget that these experts are human. They make mistakes just like you and me. They have problems, biases. They have some right ideas, some wrong ideas. You're allowed to disagree with these people and these pieces of information. Like, for example, I remember being at a dentist, and I'm not going to go into too many details, but there was an issue I had, and I went through multiple different dentists, and they all had, well, really a different conclusion on what the problem I had was. They couldn't even agree what I had. And it's funny because I tested out this formula for myself that solved the problem that I found online. And my first dentist said, it's fine if you take it, but it's not good for you because of the acidity levels of a certain formula I made at home for my teeth. And what's interesting is, a few months later, I went out and met a different dentist. And what's interesting is, she said, oh, actually, that's not true. That formula is usually not that bad due to the scientific evidence we found. So in reality, it just goes to show that these experts, and trust your doctor. It's not, yeah, I mean, we just, like, the point of this is we treat it as infallible. This, like, the way we've been taught is just this culture of, if you have a degree, the information you say is infallible, which is just nonsense. I mean, it's just nonsense. Of course it's not infallible. You're human. My dentist, all the information they got was from their medical practice experience and from what they've been taught to be true by their education and by their training. So if part of that education or training is outdated, then they're wrong. And the point here isn't, oh, you shouldn't trust your doctor or medical professional. The point here is that, it's all right to kind of question what they say. And really, you should question everything. Treat it as basically like how we should, is that you should have an open mind and look for the evidence. I've noticed, and again, this is all from my experience, is that we have too much of a reliance on the ethos for an argument. And if you don't know, ethos is basically a persuasion technique based on credentials. Now, what's interesting is, again, right, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what degree you have. The evidence is the evidence. Whether it's said by a PhD or some hillbilly farmer out on a ranch. No, that's nothing against farmers, but still, my point still stands. It doesn't matter who you are. The evidence is going to be the evidence. So this whole, I just really, and it really just sickens me to where they say, I'm smart, I've worked in SaaS, I've worked in Facebook, I've worked here, so you should listen to what I say. And it's like, no, that's bullshit. I shouldn't listen to you just because you have a degree. I need to look at the evidence and then evaluate for myself whether or not that's correct. And then this goes into another rabbit hole where they kind of manipulate the evidence or hide it or treat it like, or change it in a way to where it's not right. And then it gets to biases and you're reading it wrong, and what I come to realize is a true genius understands that in reality, the more you know, the more you realize you don't know. Life is too complicated for one person to say he understands or we should follow this set rule or whatever. My point of this video, again, I need to reiterate, it's not that you should completely disregard what these people say, but we shouldn't blindly trust them solely because they're a figure of authority. business leader, a doctor, professor, whatever. I mean, we all know not to trust a politician. And in reality, and why don't we trust politicians? Because they're in positions of power. They use manipulation tactics to get there. But the thing is, it's not just politicians that do that. It's also people in all these other industries, in business, in education, in science, technology. Like, we really have to be careful in what we listen to. Like, you assume, and this is another big problem. We assume things, and in reality, we shouldn't assume anything at all. We assume and trust, it's really a trust, is that we trust what they say and assume they're intelligent because of their qualification, which can only get you so far. But mainly, I just want to say this. Don't let anyone gaslight you or try to undermine your opinion or undermine your ability to question authority. Okay, it's only in questioning that we really find the answers to life. I understand it can be, from my experience, kind of a scary thought and process. I don't know if some of you are naturally fine with this, or like, I don't care, I don't listen to anyone, I don't trust the experts, I don't trust anyone. If you're like that, fine. But I'm talking mainly to the people who grew up in the system and were like, who never really developed much of a backbone in a surety in yourself and your beliefs. And this is something I'm working towards, really having the strength and confidence and the courage to stand my ground on my beliefs. They don't tell you how to do that. Really. They really don't tell you how to do that. Like, a lot of our beliefs are just given to us and then stated as fact, and that if we don't believe them, I mean, you're labeled as crazy. It's really a double standard. They say have an open mind, but you can only have an open mind in certain ideas. You can only look at or believe certain ideas, and anything else you're called crazy or misogynistic or whatever other label they use. It's nuts. Well, anyways, I think that just covers everything I just wanted to say. I hope you have an alright day wherever you are, and thank you for watching.